If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plumb. Let's get started. All right, well, we'll let some people jump in the room, but we can get started and kick off. So this is YouTube for real estate, and we will get back on our regularly scheduled program now. So had to take a little hiatus. Been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. 2 major speaking opportunities, 2 weeks in a row, which was amazing. And it was something that it's just a game changer. And but what's interesting is that it's been in the works. So what's funny is the Build event. We've known about Build for the last 2 months, but was asked to keep that confidential, which is cool. But at the same time, it's like you're excited, you want to promote it and tell everybody, but at the same time, it was, for whatever reason, they just like to keep that confidential. And then for the ones that show up, they get surprised with all the speakers there. But we got that opportunity last week, so I know there's a lot of Tom Ferry people in here, and they had the summit last week as well at the exact same time. So we had to pick and choose, and of course had to hang out at Build since we got the speaking opportunity there. But for those that don't know the story, I'll just tell it real briefly. That was a year in the making, and a lot of people talk about manifestation and speaking things into existence and doing, the law of attraction. But what that really comes down to is, I like the saying, you pray like it depends on God, but you have to work like it all depends on you, is what I like. Because that, we can attract, we can manifest, we can speak things and say things, but it's really the work that comes with it that manifest those things that come into existence. So I don't believe you can just, manifest it, speak it into existence, and hang out on your couch all day. Same thing with video. I mean, we have clear goals and what we want to accomplish, and clients and business we want to attract on video, but what it really comes down to is we have to put in the work, and we have to move forward, and we have to strategize and be intentional about everything we do. And I'll tie this all together as far as last year. This is something that we've talked about with several people on a lot of our calls and everything, is that a goal of ours this year was to get to as many real estate and video conferences as possible. Now, we might have bitten off a little bit more than we could chew because we've had a pretty extensive travel schedule this year. But number one, that shows you the power of video, because our business has grown tremendously this year, even though the fact that we've been gone on the road quite a bit. So despite all the travel that Travis and I have done, and we even took a little time in there, some personal time, and literally gone sometimes 2 to 3 weeks in a single month, almost consistently each month. This is the first time I'll be at home for the next 6 weeks. But the thing is that we were at Build last year, and we were doing pretty well at that time in Build for last year. But at Build, I think probably only 5 people, only 5 people knew who we were, really. I mean, we weren't well known or anything like that, but still, Build is a pretty big event. Plus, Tony Robbins was speaking there last year, and that was something I had never seen Tony Robbins speak before. And so I wanted to be a part of that. At the same time, I knew a few agents and wanted to just meet and network with them as well. Well, it was at Build event that Jay Kinder was up on stage, and Jay Kinder said from stage, he said, if you want to be on the stage, let me know. He's like, text me, shoot me a text, send me a picture, email, whatever. He was just like basically saying, if you let me know, the ones who tell me they're going to be on stage are the ones that end up on stage. And he just made that comment. We were sitting in the very back, maybe even in the standing room. I had bought the least expensive a ticket, just the general admission tickets, and pretty much stood in the back most of the time. I don't typically like to just sit there for a couple hours, so I'll get up, stand in the back, and you can hardly make out the speakers from the back of the room. But of course, they have large screens there, and you can see them. And so it just was really kind of resonated with me. And I was at the same time thinking, is that even possible? Is that possible to be on this stage 1 year from now in front of 5,000 agents? But still, that wasn't something that I wasn't going to just, let hold me back. But I thought, you know what? This would be a tremendous opportunity. It's something that I've always thought about, always dreamed about, as well as just having the opportunity to provide value for that many people in an open forum like that. And so I sent Jay that message. Actually, I posted it on my Instagram story, but then I sent it to Jay. But and if you check my Instagram a couple of days ago, I think it was last Saturday, I posted it. You can see the screenshot, and it's dated from August 19th, I believe, 2021. So you have the screenshot of the time, and I wrote on that post, I wrote nosebleeds this year, speaking on stage next year. And that was it. And I took that, did that quick story. Of course, that disappeared within 24 hours, but then I also took a screenshot of that and sent it to Jay Kinder. I texted it to him. And I still have that text message. So that was it, that was putting the wheels in motion, you could say. That was the manifestation. That was the law of attraction. But still, you have a year in between those events. And so you have to put in the work now to do that, because otherwise, if you don't have the results, if you don't have the connections there as well, then how will you get on stage? Well, I didn't know how I was going to get on stage. I just said it would happen, and then I went back to work doing what we do, which is create content and help clients, buy and sell their homes that come in from that content. So clearly, last year the market was a big help. Being in Dallas is a big help. I don't discount any of those things, but at the same time, we still had to capture that business. We had to convert it and scale it accordingly. It got to a point to where it was way too much for Travis, and we had one or two buyer's agents at the time, which led us into December of last year into expanding the team quite extensively. But then at the same time, that's what also positioned us for the first quarter of this year to do a tremendous amount of business just in the first quarter. We did 90 transactions in the first 90 days. And that was a complete snowball effect when the channel hit 1 year, and the compound effect. Of course, we know how the first quarter was pretty hot, but we had to capture all that business, and we still had to convert it. Now the thing is that from Build last year, they released registration for a Cabo event. It's a conference in Cabo. It's like a mini Build. Build is about 5,000 to 6,000 agents. Cabo is about 1,000 agents. Very small venue, but cool opportunity to get out of the country, hit the beach, learn some stuff, right off your vacation, right? But they released that at Build. It usually, as far as I know, it always sells out at Build, because they release it at Build, and you got 5,000 agents at one event, registering for a 1,000-person event. And we just registered. I just said, we're going to go regardless. We registered for Cabo. And that happened in March of this year, March of 2022, I believe, March or April, somewhere around that time frame. So we go to Cabo, and at Cabo, Brent Gove and Gene Frederick were on stage. And guess what they said from stage? And if I hadn't have been there, I wouldn't have heard him say this. And Gene said, if you want to be on this stage, if you think you should be on this stage, you need to let us know. He goes, you need to come up and tell us. It's not an ego thing. It's not, he goes, don't feel like you're bragging or trying to, he's like, but we don't know everybody's stories. We don't know everybody's production. We don't know everybody's results. But if you feel like you've got a story to tell and you've got some good information or you'd like to share, he's like, you let us know, get in front of us, step up, be heard, is what they said. And I was standing in the back of the room again. I just bought the general admission there and no VIP or anything like that. And I was standing at the back of the room. Well, I was just hanging out there. Well, Brent Gove got off of the stage, did a full circle, like walked around the whole auditorium, and then was just standing right next to me. I didn't notice him walk up and stand next to me, but I was sitting there listening to the next speaker, and I looked to my side, and all of a sudden there's Brent Gove just standing right next to me. He didn't know who I am. I met him once before, but it was, we just met. So I wasn't a producing agent. Actually, the channel had just started. It was 1 month old whenever I met him. So I hadn't even sold a home whenever I met him. And of course, I told him, well, I'm just working on this YouTube thing right now. And so he was kind of like, okay, well, cool. Let me know how that works out. Very cool, very positive, but I was not anybody memorable to him at that moment. And that was it. And he's standing next to me. And I was like, hey, Brent. I was like, how are you? I was like, my name's Levi. I said, we actually met in January of 2021. And I was, started this YouTube thing. And he was like, okay, yeah. And I could see he was trying to remember. But he's like, okay, yeah, cool. And I was like, well, hey, y'all said, if we wanted to be on stage to let you know. And I said, I think we should be on stage at Build. And he goes, okay. He just looked at me and he said, okay. He goes, send me a video. I was like, send you a video? All right, I think I can do that. I could definitely send you a video. And he said, I was like, well, he goes, just keep it short and sweet. He goes, just let me know your production. He goes, let me know your results, kind of like what's happening in your real estate business. And he goes, let me know a little bit about your personal story. I was like, okay, I could do that. Just a quick summary of results and a personal story. And so that was it. It was about a 12-minute video I put together, which was longer than I wanted it to be anyways. But I thought, okay, 12 minutes, I'll shoot that over to him. And I sent him a text. He gave me his phone number and he said, yeah, just text me a video. Well, that was in, I sent that to him maybe a month later, March, April, May, I believe I sent that to him. In June or July, I'm not really sure. June or July, there was an event in Dallas, and it was a one-day real estate conference, just a couple of speakers. Glenn Stearns, the undercover billionaire, was the main speaker, but I let our team know. I was like, hey, there's this one-day event here. I think it's a good opportunity. We don't have to travel anywhere, no plane tickets, no hotels, get in, get out. I think it was $50 or something. I was like, we should all go, we should. So most of our team went there. And I didn't realize that Brent Gove was speaking there. And also what I didn't know is that he had watched the video literally just a couple of days before coming into Dallas. And so when I showed up at the event in Dallas with the team and Brent saw me there, he immediately recognized me and eyes got all big. And if any of you have ever met Brent, he is one of the most excitable guys on the planet. Super cool, happy-go-lucky, very passionate about everything. And he saw me and his eyes lit up and he's like, Levi, he's like, I watched your video. He goes, that's awesome. He goes, I love your story. He goes, I'm blown away, everything you're doing. Well, that was a cool thing. I forgot, let me backtrack. We were actually supposed to speak at that event in Dallas, which is why we're going. We got invited to speak, and then all of a sudden, last minute, we got pulled for some reason. Not sure why, but although I have suspicions. But anyways, we got pulled from that. And so, but I was like, you know what? Ego's not going to get in the way. Don't worry about it. We're still going to go because I want to learn and I want the team to go as well. So, but what happened was Brent was so excited when he got up there and spoke, and he spoke for probably an hour and a half. He talked about us for, a good portion of his talk. It seemed like almost half of his talk. He just kept talking about, our results and YouTube and everything. So it was very cool to have that third-party validation, especially if somebody of Brent's, stature and standing in the real estate community to do that. And that was just really awesome. But from there, we got a chance to talk afterwards, and I was like, Brent, we should be on stage at Build, like I said. And he goes, well, hey, I'm not in charge of that. We have a committee. He goes, I do have a vote though. He goes, I do have a vote, but it's not entirely up to me. And so I'm going to, he goes, but I'm definitely going to put in a good word for you. He goes, but there's a lot of qualified people, a lot of good candidates. We get 100 or so, 150 submissions. He goes, and we can only choose 50 people or so, with however many speakers they have. And he goes, it's very, very tough because everybody deserves to be up there. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I said, look, I just appreciate the consideration. And so that was it, and from there, it was, it was just, kind of just keep in touch back and forth. And then I'm not sure the exact timeline from there, but within about 60 days, I'm not sure if we had gone to this event called Shareholders or not, but we went to Shareholders, and maybe I did find out by that point. But ultimately at Shareholders, one of the people that Brent knows, that Brent had heard about or told him about us, I didn't even know he was telling about us, invited us to speak at this another event. So, but still, all those connections, really the summary of the story is that it was all a cascade of events. It was all a series of events. But ultimately, I believe what happened there was, it was not just the results, because just because I said it last year doesn't mean it was going to happen. It was, we had to go and get back to work. We had to continue doing what we were doing. We had to scale and grow it even more. But it was also taking the time, energy, effort, and money and expense and everything else to show up to these events. Now, I didn't plan to show up to these events for that reason. I didn't say, okay, well, I'm going to go to Cabo and go to this event in Dallas and go here to, because that's going to get me on the stage at Build. That wasn't my intention of scheduling those events. I scheduled those events for the opportunity to meet people that I may not get a chance to meet, for the opportunity to learn, for the opportunity to grow and network. So I had other intentions, but it was really that whole series of events that allowed me to even get in front of more in front of Brent at the same time, develop more of a relationship with him, which I can say now we are very good friends now, and we've just had the opportunity to get to know each other, and that's what's super cool about it. And showing up at these events allowed me to extend relationships, meet people, but also to be in front of Brent as well. So I stayed on top of mind with him, because then he saw me going to these events, and he knows, and any of the top producers in the industry will always say the top producers are at events, right? They know people that invest in their self-education and their skills and want to grow, and who show up at these events are the people that will be successful. Even if you're there when you can't afford it, the budget is tight, you're not really sure how you're going to pay for this or that, those people that show up, typically take something away from a knowledge standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, from an opportunity standpoint, or from all three of those, because really good things happen at these events if you're intentional about it and if you're going there for that purpose. And so you get opportunity and access to people that you may never meet or have the opportunity to meet. And here they are. It could be an influencer. It could be a corporate staff member. It could be, who knows, anybody, a keynote speaker that is there hanging out at the bar or at the beach or in between sessions, or you run into them in the bathroom, whatever the case may be. That's the opportunities that you have at these events. And so it was just really cool to get up on stage. And the thing is that I told nobody about that picture that I took, and I still have it. And of course I posted it on my Instagram. Like I said, if you go back to Saturday, I believe is whenever I posted that, you'll see the picture. But I used that as my closing slide in the presentation. Brent didn't even know that. So Brent didn't know I posted that, didn't know I sent it to Jay. So Jay Kinder was the only one that knew that. And I told Brent, I was like, got something out, I can't wait to show you at the end of the presentation. But that was the last slide, because my point was at the end of the presentation is that you are one decision away. I truly believe you're one decision away, but you also have to take massive action with that one decision. But ultimately, when you decide that you're going to change your business or change your life, and then you add action to that, we're in a time, this day and age, that it can happen. Whatever it is you want to do. For me, it was YouTube. For others, it could be TikTok. It could be Instagram. It could be door knocking. It could be cold calling. You never know. But the ones that make the decision, put in that massive action, we're in a point in time where the information is out there. There's books, there's vlogs, there's blogs, there's YouTube. Everything you need to hyperlearn any subject you can do in 60 days. And Jay Shetty says that if you read 5 books on one subject, you'll be more proficient than 99% of the population on that subject. And I believe that to be absolutely the case, especially in real estate. If you read 5 books on postcard marketing, you'll probably be more proficient than 99.9% of the real estate agents out there. Because guess what? There are books on postcard marketing. You could watch YouTube videos on postcard marketing. You could watch blogs or Google and read blogs and all kinds of things on postcard marketing. You could be looking at postcards that you get in your mail. If you're part of any mastermind groups, there's probably agents that have their postcard marketing platforms in there. So whatever it is, if you hyper learn that subject and really dial in on it, for Brent, like Brent said, his whole business was built around open houses. He was the absolute best open house person on the planet, according to him. And that's how he built his whole business. And he goes, you know what? He worked 12 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, but he spent Monday through Friday with his family, doing all the things he wanted to do. Take the kids to school, pick the kids up from school, go to lunch, go to the park, do what he needed to do. I mean, he followed up with clients and did some things, but otherwise he spent all days he ran these open houses and he became the open house expert. So those opportunities are out there, and it's just a matter of figuring out what it is you want, and I think going all in on that. And so what I like to ask people, because I realize video is not for everybody, what I like to ask people is to think about what's the path of least resistance for you. Are you a people person? Are you a phone call person? Or are you a writer? Or are you a video person? The thing is that if you figure out what type of person you are, then I think it's going to be easier to find which best marketing platform is going to work for you. Like if you're a writer, then maybe you become a great copywriter and you can write the best postcard campaign and you can write the best emails and you can do cold email outreach or have the best copy around your website. That could be a possibility. If you're a phone type of person, maybe you do become the best cold caller or calling FSBOs and expireds and become really great at that. Or would you rather sell on camera, on video like we do through YouTube, or doing it on TikTok or Instagram? Or, are you, people person? Are you an open house person? You'd rather shake hands, kiss babies. Well, I think everybody probably falls in one of those 4 categories. So once you realize, okay, well, I'm a people person. If you're a people person, it's probably going to be difficult for you to do video. Not that it's impossible, and I believe you can do anything you want to do, but I'm also saying why push yourself to that extreme? Or is it necessary? Again, if you want to do it, go for it. Was it easy for me in the beginning? Not really. I'd never really sold to a camera before. I've been in sales, but that's what I had to do. I had to make adjustments and say, you know what? I was a people person. But I also realized that being a people person for me wasn't scalable. It wasn't scalable at all. And that's where, for those that know my story, it's like I had 3 major resets in my life and literally back to zero. Now, every time I went back to zero, there was the same factor in all those cases, which was the fact that it was just me. I was a great salesperson, one-on-one, in person. But every time something in my life came up and put me back to zero, I didn't have a business that preceded me. I didn't have a business that still ran without me. And that was my promise to myself moving into real estate was, I'm not going to be in this position again. I'm not going to settle for one-to-one sales. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, I had just been reset 3 times, and I found myself at 41 years old asking myself, well, how do I start over without starting over? And from that standpoint, I just had to ask myself different questions, and I had to say, okay, how do I not get in that position again? I still love people, still like to talk to them, but at the same time, if something happens again to me and I get taken out for whether it's a week or a month or a year, okay, how can my business still function and run without me? those were the questions I had to ask myself. How do I make myself scalable? And how do I not have everything dependent on me? And so it was just a different mindset coming into real estate. And ultimately, real estate is a business just like anything else. It's just a different vehicle. You know, the product is clients. The product is buying and selling homes. Those types of things. And so it's just a different bit of application, but ultimately that's what it comes down to. So I think what I was trying to say there was, you know, hey, it's great to have goals. It's great to manifest and speak things, and it just really does take a lot of work to go with that. Now, the other part of that is that honestly, this is the most I've, in my 20 plus years here, I feel like this is the hardest I've worked and the most time I've put into something, but at the same time, it hasn't felt like that at all, because I really enjoy and love what I'm doing. And I don't feel like I'm resetting every single day. In my previous 3 careers, every time I went home, the sales were done for the day. And guess what? The next day, I started over at 0. And whatever I sold or didn't sell that day, that was it. And if I took a week off, guess what? No sales were going to happen for that week. If I wanted to take a month off, no sales were going to happen for that month. And so now I don't feel like I'm starting over every single day. I feel like I'm continually building and progressing off of everything I've done yesterday and the week before and the month before that. On top of that, videos are compounding at a rate that I can't even, I can't match. You know, I shared this example in the speech on Build, is that our channel in one day was watched 1,514 hours. You divide that by 24 hours in a day, that's equivalent to 63 days. One day on our channel was worth 63 days of prospecting. In last month in July, our channel was watched 11,800 hours. You divide that by 24 hours in a day, that's equivalent to 1.34 years. So in 1 month, we gained 1.34 years of prospecting. And since we started the channel, it's been watched 130,400 watch hours, which is equivalent to 14.88 years. So when you think about that, you break that down, our channel is prospecting not only at a compound rate, but it's turning one day into multiple months. It's turning a month into multiple years. It's turning a year and a half into 1.5 decades worth of prospecting. How powerful is that? That's why I believe video is the ultimate business model that you can implement that will not just return your time, but compound your time and help you achieve more than you can imagine, because you have something that is not just working for you in the background, but building momentum and more momentum and more momentum. And that's what allows you to do other things and scale your business and hire the right people and put them into place and build out the systems and the processes, because your prospecting is taken care of. It's being done for you because you took the time to make that video and that second video and that third video. And those are the opportunities that present themselves. So that was just a little bit, I just wanted to kind of share that, my experience this last 2 weeks. Well, and the week before that, I don't even, downplay it, but we got the opportunity to speak with Ryan Serhant and then go to dinner with him afterwards and just continue that relationship, because we got to meet him last month in New York and spend a weekend with him there as well. And that is like, not to downplay that at all, it's a big deal. It's a huge opportunity. But all of that happened because of things that we, implemented, put into place, took action, moved forward on, and just continue to build from there. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity out there. It does come with the work, and we do a lot on the backside, but at the same time, I don't feel like I've really worked at all, because to me, this is fun. I'm having a great time, and we're building something way bigger than all of us, and we're helping so many people too, not just in the real estate space, but even just locally. You know, I think about our team members, our staff, the people that we're working with locally, internationally, out of state. You know, Chrissy here, what's funny is Chrissy has worked with me for 4 years now, and last week was the first time we met in person, you know, and this was the opportunity where she lives in Georgia, and we've worked together for 4 years, never met in person. And she was like, when we got the call to speak at Build, she said, there's not a chance in hell I'm missing this. And so I'm coming to Dallas to hang out for a week with the team and actually see you, make sure we're all real, right? Right, Chrissy? Is that kind of how it worked out? What's up, David? My man, how are you today? Are you there?
Yeah, hey man, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you know, I like that blue background, man. Makes you look young and spry.
Thank you, man. Hey, at first I just want to congratulate you, man. That's awesome. Congrats on your success. I saw you up on the stage looking like a rock star, man. I'm happy for you, bro. I loved seeing that, you know? You want to see other people shine, because I've been watching you on this app for a year, man. And you've just been consistent, right? Like, would you agree this is why? Because you just consistently keep showing up, right? And doing little things and adding every day. And then eventually now you've built what you've built.
Yeah, I mean, yes, thank you. And thank you, Dave. And I'm sorry I missed you, man. Yeah, you're right. But I do believe consistency is the key factor. And it's not perfection, it's just consistency. And that's the cool thing about it is you know, we started out in Atlanta, but you know, this app has played a big role. And to go even back on the origin story, whenever events were kind of coming back around last year, you know, Giselle Ugardi was putting on an event in Atlanta in, when was that? That was like March or April of last year. I'm going to say April or May, somewhere between that, March, April, or May. And, you know, things were just kind of coming out of COVID. I was on this app for maybe a couple of months, maybe 2 months there, and I didn't really speak much, but, you know, I got into one room, and Julie Mozina and Justin Konikow and Giselle, you know, asked me a couple of questions, and I just kind of shared what I knew at the time, and they felt like that was impactful. And it you know, again, it was this whole cascade of events where it was, you know, just staying active in here, not all day every day, but I would jump in from time to time. And when Giselle was putting on that event, it was kind of deemed as a Clubhouse meetup almost, right? It was kind of like, oh, everyone's going to be there from Clubhouse, from these different real estate rooms. And I just thought, hey, great opportunity to go and learn and, you know, meet some of these people I've been talking to on the app. And I wasn't picked to speak there. I wasn't a consideration as far as I know. And they had a YouTube speaker, and I knew that, but I was happy to go because I want to see YouTube speakers. I was like, that's the main reason I wanted to go as well, because I wanted to hear somebody else speak on YouTube and figure out if I could pick up anything at all whatsoever to improve my business. And that person canceled last minute. They had something come up, and they canceled. And so 2 days, like literally 2 days before the event, Giselle calls me up and says, hey, I noticed you're on the schedule or on the roster to attend. I see you on the attendance list. Are you coming to Atlanta? And I said, yeah, I am. And I didn't know what she was asking about, but I just said, yeah, I am. You know, looking forward to it, happy to learn. And she just said, well, our YouTube speaker canceled, so figured why not ask you since you're going to be there. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And that was it. That was the first opportunity, and it happened by the fact, again, going back to my original story, was just going to show up, to learn, to network, to meet people, and that was it. But from that, because I chose to make that move and to go there and travel and be a part of that, and that was it. That's what opened up the first opportunity, and from that opportunity, built more opportunities. And that's the other, you know, if you get a chance to meet somebody or host a breakout or speak or something like that, there's going to be other people on the stage or in the audience, and it's going to open up more opportunities. If I can help anybody do that and grow their business, then I think it's a huge, a good opportunity. But yes, yeah, David. I mean, it's staying very consistent. I believe that's the way you do it too in your business.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, let me ask you this. So, I loved your story too, as far as how you were just in the right place at the right time, right? You were there and you got the call, and I've experienced that myself. But I want to ask you something about what you were saying earlier about how you had to do the resets. And there's a lot of people that maybe aren't exactly loving what they're doing right now and may want to do a reset or may need to do a reset, but they don't really have the courage to do it. Like, what would you say to those people?
Well, I think all great things come out of courage, right? Or sometimes it's. I believe you make a decision based off of two things. I think you either make decisions from a position of strength, I guess you could say, or a position of desperation. And it's easier, of course, I believe, to make decisions from a position of strength. And so right now, for us, as things are going well, going smoothly, we're risking more. We're doing more things, risking. And I don't really like the word failure. I know a lot of people say, hey, you got to fail and you got to fail fast. I kind of like the word learning, because I don't really feel like if I try something and it doesn't work out, that's a failure. As long as I learn something and I'm able to grow or adjust or change course, then I don't see that necessarily as a failure. But the point is that if because things are going well for us right now, we're taking more risk because we're in a position to where if it doesn't work out, then it's easier to adjust. Or if we lose a little money here or there because we tried something, that's easier to do that whenever things are good. Now, when things are not great, like you said, David, you're in that position to where you're lacking courage, or there's a financial strain, or maybe family strain, or whatever the case may be. You're going to make a choice.
Hey, well, Levi, maybe it's not even that. Maybe someone's just not fulfilled. Maybe they're just doing something that's not fulfilling anymore, right? Like you talked about video, like you love video, right? Which is you're having fun with it. Like what about that? Is really what I was talking to than anything else.
Oh, I got you. Well, I mean, then if you're not fulfilled, then hopefully you're in one of the best positions to make that change. And I like to say I'm most comfortable when I'm uncomfortable, and I'm uncomfortable whenever I'm comfortable. So the thing is that if I'm comfortable, that's usually an indication to myself that it's time to shake things up, try something new. So if somebody's not fulfilled and they're not happy with what they're doing in their business, I think you're either going to get to a point to where you make that decision now, and if you're in the financial position and everything else is mostly good in your life, that is a position of strength that you can make that pivot. Now the thing is that does it suck, or does the thought of it suck about changing? Yes, absolutely, because guess what? A year and a half ago, I was in that same position, 41. That's what I looked at. I was like 41. I thought, how did I end up in this position again? And I say again because it happened to me before. And I'm like, how do I start over without starting over? I was not looking forward to rebuilding, to starting over. But what it came down to, what I really told myself I was like, well, I'm like 1/3 of the way through my life. I truly believe I'll live till 120 because not only do I try to stay in the best health possible, but I believe in another 40 years, medicine and technology, who knows, could probably carry us another, 20 years and beyond. So I believe I believe in my lifetime I can live till 120. I just finished the first third, which means I still got 2/3 of my life left. That's a majority of my life still ahead of me. And do I give up, and do I quit, and do I be stuck, or just let things phase out, or do I make the decision to move forward? So for me, I was in that position, but I was forced into that position. Now, when I look back on it, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to move forward and to get out of that. But if if you're unfulfilled, then I would just say that that's usually things are going well, and maybe finances are good, family is good, but there's just not much meaning in the work. Then I believe you just have to ask yourself, is this, is it painful enough for me to make that move? But then also realize that there's not an overnight pill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, and whatever you decide to move into, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or postcards or cold calling, that's going to take a tremendous amount of effort in the beginning. It's going to take momentum, and it's going to take something that you're going to have to build. You're going to have to build significantly and with a ton of effort in the beginning. And that's the way momentum, I mean, we've all heard the analogies that, I mean, it's like getting the plane off the ground, right? It's starting a run. I mean, everything that you do, it's very slow in the beginning. You have to build that momentum, but once you get on cruise control, same thing with the car. To get that car, unless it's a Tesla going to, or a Porsche, who knows, you go into 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. But it's a lot easier to be on cruise control than it is to build up that momentum. But where's that time going? So I think going back to what we talked about, David, if somebody's unfulfilled, I would narrow it down to what type of person are you? Are you a people person, a phone person, a writer? Are you a video person? Okay, I know which avenue I want to, and I guess I'm just speaking in business sense. Okay, and if I need to adjust, where do I go from there? If I'm a video person, now I got to look at, okay, do I want to do YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or do I just want to do some other form of content, a video podcast or something like that? Do I want to, if I'm a voice person, I don't know, is there a way to get on radio in your local market? Those types of things. I think you look at where the path of least resistance that fits your personality, break that up, and then break that up, and then break that down, and then figure out, okay, I think this is something here, find that one thing, focus on it, and just go all in on that. And I believe you'll build momentum and get yourself out of that situation, hopefully sooner rather than later, because you're also dialed in on one thing. And that's one thing I encourage people, if they're coming into real estate or business, or even if they're thinking about getting on social right now, I don't recommend being everywhere. Don't try to be on 5 different platforms, because you'll end up putting 20% effort into 5 different platforms. Figure out, if you want to be on social, figure out your platform, study it, understand it, learn it, and go all in on that platform. It'll be so much easier if you wait a year and get really, really good on that one platform and then branch out to the other platforms. But most of the agents I know that are very, very, very successful really master one craft. They're mastering postcards, or they're mastering cold calling, or they're mastering YouTube or TikTok. And then they may have their hands in other cookie jars, but they've really, really dialed in on one form of business, one way to pay the bills there. And they enjoy that as well. And it's part of them and part of routine. So I don't know. Am I beating around the bush there? Does that help out, David?
No, that's good, man. Yeah, that's good. The only reason I ask is, I talk to probably a dozen realtors every single day, and it's just unfortunate how many people are just not happy in where they are right now, but yet they just keep doing it because they're able to make a little bit of money, or it's comfortable. You know what I mean? And that's why I asked. And it's cool to see someone like you, who took something you absolutely love and then just went with it and built a business around it, So it's inspiring.
Well, thank you, David. Appreciate that. But we're venturing out too, and so that's the thing, is we're testing some things now. We're testing some paid strategies and marketing and working on some other stuff, and that's kind of uncomfortable for us. That's something that we haven't done, so we're exploring that. And now, I'll tell you what, paid marketing versus organic marketing. What I love about organic marketing is when you provide value in the marketplace and people come to you. Such a different story. I mean, such a different conversation. Now that we're testing out on some paid strategies, it's easy to get some leads come in, but those people still have no idea who we are, that we have a YouTube channel, don't know that value's there, and so you're starting from scratch. Sure, maybe they submitted a form or submitted a lead form or something like that, or clicked on this or that, but you have to, it goes back to sales 101, establishing rapport, building credibility, developing a relationship very, very quickly, as quickly as you possibly can, because otherwise, at that moment, we may not be any different than the real estate agent, next to us or next to them. And so that comes with a unique challenge now. And so even venturing into that, if we want to scale, now the thing is with paid marketing is that it should be easier to scale, because nobody should ever have a marketing budget. You should have a testing budget. And if you test something and it returns you $2 or $3 or $4 for every dollar you spend, well, you should probably spend as much as possible on that. But you have to test it first to make sure the return is there. Now, it's easier to scale paid marketing than it is organic marketing. But for us, we're still learning the organic marketing thing. So just like last month, we had the most amount of views to our channel, but the least amount of calls in the last 2 weeks. So what is that? Okay, market change, could be. A back to school, could be. Into summer, could be. Could be a lot of those factors, but we can't pinpoint really any of those with organic. We just know, okay, lead flow is down the last 2 weeks of August. Okay, so what are we going to do? I know what I told the team I was going to do. I was like, I'm going to double down on content. I'm going to make more content, be more consistent. That's what I know. What I can control. I can't control the lead flow coming in organically, but if I'm paying for leads and I'm spending $1,000 and I get 100 leads, well, I should be able to spend $2,000 and get 200 leads. But then I also need to know my conversion rates. So, for that to be worthwhile, can I close a house, a $9,000 commission house off of spending $1,000? Well, if I can do that, well, then I should spend that all day long. So those are the things. But yeah, I mean, I hear you, David. I mean, it's something like you saw that I talked about in the speech from stage, when people struggle about getting on video, and I say, well, look, this year our videos are worth $47,000. When you divide the amount of commissions by the amount of videos we've published, one video is worth $47,000. And if I offered anybody in this room $47,000 to make a video, could you get over your camera shyness? Could you get over feeling awkward, or the way you sound? Or yeah, probably so. And probably people would say, well, how many videos can I make? How many videos can I make and you still pay me $47,000? But the thing is last year they paid me about $8,100. But that goes to show the compound effect, the difference of last year versus this year. And that is a complete compound effect. So, but that came with the consistency. If anywhere in the last year I had stepped back and said, you know what, I don't feel like it, I don't want to do this, it's not a good week, I've got Build and Ryan Serhant 2 weeks in a row in August was a tremendous amount of pressure. And I wasn't going to speak it leading up to that, but I was nervous every day, like I had a knot in my chest. But what I told myself is that, oh, that's just me feeling ready. I'm ready. I'm good to go. No problem. I got this. I wasn't going to sit there and say, oh man, I'm nervous, I can't do that. I was not going to say that to myself at all whatsoever, and I didn't say that to anybody else. I didn't let them know. Every time somebody asked me, I was like, I'm good, yeah, let's go, ready, let's rock and roll. But to do that and produce content, and we had a couple of travel events before that, the thing is I just don't allow excuses and to get in the way of the content. I understand that content is what is fueling our business. And so I can't compromise on that. It is my non-negotiable. And despite, the other part, I guess that's what I was going to come back to, was we talked about it on our team meeting this morning, is that they said it from stage at Build. Either you're practicing with yourself or you're going to practice with your clients. And if you practice with your clients, you're probably not going to win a lot of those deals. And just like you, David, I know you do a lot of calls, and you know your scripts, you know your flow, you know how to have those conversations. Well, for me, I wasn't going to take a chance on speaking in front of 6,000 people to screw that up or let it be the first time. So I practice. I practice my speech every day. First of all, what I'm normally used to doing is probably about 45 minutes. They gave me 20. So I had to cut it more than in half. And then I had to make sure, because I knew their number one thing with us is do not go over your time. I mean, that's what they were adamant about. Whatever you do not go over your time. So I had to be respectful of the venue and the people there to say, okay, I can't go over 20 minutes. First of all, I have to chop out 60% of what I'm used to doing, get that down to 20 minutes and deliver that on time, and still try to make an impact and provide some value for the audience at the same time. Well, I'm not just going to let that happen by chance. I'm not going to go out there on stage and practice, even though you can't really prepare unless you've spoken in front of 5,000 people. You can't prepare for that really, but I can practice the talk. I can get my timing down, and that's what I did for 3 weeks leading up to it. A lot of the times I did it at 8:30 at night because that was the only time I had left in the day to do that. And do you think at 8:30 at night I wanted to hang out in my bedroom and literally I plugged in my laptop on the big screen TV, I practiced it, I put the laptop in front of me because I knew they have cheap monitors there. They have a monitor in front of you so you can face the stage, you don't have to look back at your slides. So I knew that. In the military, we had the saying, train as you fight. You train the best way you possibly can for the exact scenario. And so I would place my laptop like in front of me as my cheat screen and plug it into my big screen TV so it was behind me, so I'd kind of have that whole sense. And that's how I practice. And I practice that, every day, not only to get my timing down, but so that I wouldn't just go out there and I didn't want to let anybody down. Mainly, that was it. You want to perform. Nobody goes to a conference wanting to see a bad speaker or an unprepared speaker or somebody that didn't put in their best effort. And most of the time that speaker is on stage because they've produced results. So there's a lot of pressure leading up to that, and that I put on myself. It wasn't coming from anybody else, but for me, I wanted it to be really, really good, and so, but at the same time, I've got a business and a team and content and everything else that goes into it, and I couldn't use these speaking opportunities as an excuse to let that take a back seat, because it's what fuels our success. It's what fuels our business, and I worked around it, and Chrissy knows this, and Chrissy knows I will go out and spend a whole weekend if I have to. I am not afraid to give up a weekend or a weeknight or wherever the case may be to go create content. I
have to tell him to take a break.
Yeah, even before Build, we had the Tom Ferry Summits in town at the same time, like Jeremy Knight, he's a YouTuber in Austin, Texas. We've been doing this series of Atlanta versus Dallas, Houston versus Dallas. I wanted to do Austin versus Dallas, and he was like, well, hey, I'll be in town for the Tom Ferry thing. Can I just come into your office? I was like, sure. I didn't say, oh, well, it's a bad week. I've got a lot going on. I've got the conference. I was like, no. I was like, well, can we do it Monday instead of Tuesday? And Tuesday I knew would be too much of a crunch time, but I was like, hey, what if we do it Monday night? Will you be in town? He's like, sure. Because I didn't want to miss that opportunity with him either. But I also wanted to keep the content consistent because we had been doing these series on a weekly basis. And, so it's one of those things where you just do it. You make it happen regardless of, what's coming down. Plus, I also knew how important it was for me, at least, to keep a routine leading up to the event. I didn't want to throw things off because like that morning, that Wednesday morning, I still got up at the same time, still went to the CrossFit gym before getting ready. I kept my routine. Because that's important for me to feel normal, right? And so I didn't want to throw anything out of balance or out of whack. But the point was that I was, I practiced and prepared for that. And I ended up finishing almost a minute and a half early, which felt really good. But what was funny, here's the funny thing out of all of that is, and if anybody ever gets the opportunity to speak, I'm just warning you right now. Train as you fight. Remember, train as you fight. You want to practice for the scenario you're in. Well, I didn't think about this, but I knew they would have a timer on stage, which they have a countdown clock. Well, I was using my stopwatch on my phone. So I was starting from 0 and counting up to 20. Well, when you get on stage, they start at 20 and count down to 0. So it was funny, there was an Olympic runner that spoke at Build that talked about when she runs, a mile, she knows exactly where she has to be on the track every 10, 20, or 30 seconds, whatever the case may be, right? So she's like, if I'm 30 seconds into the race, I know exactly where I need to be on that track if I want to make the time or if I want to win the medal, right? So, and that's where I trained myself. I knew exactly where I needed to be midpoint of my speech so that I knew I would be on track to make the time. The problem is I was counting from 0 to 20, and I knew that mark was at 12 minutes. So I was like, if I get to this point, this slide at 12 minutes, I'm golden, right? It's easy peasy. Well, when I got on stage, I didn't even think about it, and I didn't even realize this until afterwards. But as I was speaking, it was counting backwards, and so when I got to the point of my slide where I checked the clock, which by the way, I didn't look at the clock once until I hit that slide because I had just trained myself to just go in auto mode. Well, when I looked down at the clock, it said like 7.5 minutes. And it completely threw me off. Like I literally thought to myself in a split second, I was like, am I 5 minutes off? Well, I was like, am I 5 minutes ahead or behind? I thought I was 5 minutes ahead almost. I thought, did I make it here in 7.5 minutes versus the 12.5 that I thought I needed to be? That's what threw me off. And now here's the other part of that is I did not skip a beat. I just kept going. I just said, well, it is what it is. If I end up 5 minutes early, I'm going to end up 5 minutes early. But I kept going because I didn't want to show the audience that I got a little flustered there. I didn't want to stop and say, oh my God, I'm running out of time. Or I didn't want to speak out and say, well, I'm way ahead of schedule. Or, I didn't say any of that because just like you don't want to do that with your clients. Like if you can't get a lockbox open in front of a client, you don't want to sit there and say, oh, golly geez, this is my first time. I just can't figure this out. You would say, oh, clearly there's something wrong with this lockbox. I'm going to go call the agent real quick, and then you go around the corner and you call your mom and ask for help, out of their sight. You don't show them that you're flustered and you don't know what's going on. And so that's the way I felt up there. And so I saw 7.5 minutes and I thought, man, I'm 5 minutes ahead of schedule, or am I behind? It didn't really compute for me for that split second, but I was just like, okay, well, I just got to go with it and finish the rest of the presentation. And it was whenever I got towards the end and there was like a minute and a half left, and I realized, oh, okay, well, I am okay on time. But it wasn't until I even got off stage, and probably like an hour later, because I was sitting there, that's what I was thinking about. I was like, where did I go wrong? How did I mess that up? And then I realized, oh, I practiced the wrong way on the clock and on the timer. So anyways, that was just a little funny story, but also forewarning to anybody, if you get that speaking opportunity and they have a countdown clock, make sure you practice counting backwards versus up. So, but otherwise, it worked out pretty good. And I guess nobody raised their hand during this, so nobody had any questions about YouTube today. Not that we covered much, but thank you for letting me share that. Appreciate you letting me share that. It was a huge opportunity, and hopefully somebody gained a little insight or something that can help their business. And if there's no questions, David, do you have anything else you'd like to throw in there, or are you feeling good, my man? Oh, and he's gone. So, all right, if nobody has any general questions about YouTube, I'm happy to close up shop today. Sorry I kind of ranted there for a little while, but I didn't see anybody raise their hand either, so I'll leave it at that. Maybe I'll check the chat. Hey, David, what's up? I was there last year, saw you, and we did an interview. How great. Yeah. What's up, Armando? That's right, we did do that little interview. Hello, Don and Muhammad. Okay, all right, guys. Well, I don't think no questions today, so thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching all for free, schedule a call at 5starstrategycall.com.